Hello and welcome. My name is Peace Mitchell and I'm co-founder of Women Changing the World Press. Before we begin, I would like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land that I live and work on, the people of Mamu country in North Queensland. And I would also like to pay my respects to traditional owners and elders, past and present, right across Australia and the Torres Strait. Well, I am so excited to be launching Purpose and Passion, the latest book from Women Changing the World Press, featuring the stories from incredible women leaders from right across Australia. And today I am so happy to have one of my fellow co-authors with me, Dr. Olivia Ong. Please join me, Dr. Olivia.
Hi, Peace. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, it's so great to have you here, Olivia. For people who haven't met you before, I would love you to tell us a bit about you and the work that you do.
So I'm a rehabilitation and pain physician. So I have a public and private practice seeing patients with persistent chronic pain. But I also work as a burnout coach for doctors, helping them through burnout. And I also write lots of articles, media commentating on this particular topic, which is close to my heart because I've been through burnout and I know how devastating it could be. And I also enjoy writing books, and hence here I am today, contributing a chapter to Purpose and Passion, which has been really fantastic. And I speak a lot on this particular topic professionally and publicly as well on burnout. So that's basically I have a thought leadership business on speaking about the core message, which is, self-compassion, self-love is the antidote to burnout management. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. And your chapter for Purpose and Passion is Forget Toxic Productivity. Can you tell us what toxic productivity is?
Yeah, I think especially where I work in medicine, we always pride ourselves in, I guess, being really busy. The hustle culture is very real, probably not just in medicine, many other industries as well. More so in medicine, because obviously there's a patriarchal hierarchy to it. And especially as female doctors, we always have this, I guess, maybe need to prove that we are probably worthier than our male counterparts. But in that journey of doing that, proving to be worthier than our counterparts, it actually sacrificed a lot of our mental and physical health. And that's what I mean by toxic productivity. And I've also just noticed that in entrepreneurship as well, because I remember when I first started my journey as an entrepreneur, it was such a steep learning curve. I felt like I was an intern in a hospital again. And it's so easy to just carry it away, especially with social media management. You could be like looking at your phone, and scrolling on social media, putting up posts, commenting on other people's posts at night. So that could appear very, benign or very, not sinister at all, but it creeps up. So that's what I mean by toxic productivity in a way. I mean, there's the hustle culture, which is in a lot of industries, but in entrepreneurship, it can creep up like that. And we may feel a sense of achievement when we've done lots of social media things, but actually it does cause a lot of, how do you say, because obviously when you do something like that, you sacrifice a lot of other time with your loved ones and even with your own personal time to have self-care and things. And we know that it's important to show up on social media, but we also need to, I guess, know the limits to it. That's what I mean by toxic productivity, because it can creep up without you knowing and suddenly becomes really toxic to your body and also to your emotional and mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as entrepreneurs, there's always more things you could be doing. There's always more promotion and marketing and emails you could be sending. There's always more ideas and projects you could be working on. And sometimes it is difficult to switch off from all of that. And particularly, I think smartphones have definitely made it harder than ever before for entrepreneurs to be able to switch off.
Yeah, indeed. And I think with my particular, I'm really passionate about talking about burnout. This is how it can manifest. So toxic productivity is probably one of the, I call it risk factors to developing burnout, or, and burnout is also one of those conditions in a way that it will creep up on you without you knowing. Like you might feel exhausted, but you just brush it off as I'm a mom of 3 kids. I've got a business. Of course, I'm going to be tired. What else can I be? It creeps up like that, and then you start feeling quite numb, disconnected, and then eventually you ask yourself, "What's the point of me doing this business? I should just burn it down. Should I?" Or things like that. That's how quickly or sinisterly burnout can creep up in your life. For sure.
Yeah, and it is quite serious,
Mm,
but because it comes on so slowly over time,
yeah,
yeah, we don't realize that it's happening sometimes.
yeah, exactly.
So in your chapter, you shared some of your tools for overcoming burnout. And the first tool that you shared was self-compassion and allowing yourself to take a break. Can you tell us a bit more about self-compassion and what that means?
Absolutely. And a piece I talked about when you start feeling numb, as a
Mm,
symptom of burnout, that's when your emotional energy account is not being topped up. So I talked about this concept of energy bank accounts. I
mhm,
guess because of the current economy, everyone can relate to bank accounts. Times are a little bit hard at the moment. So that's how I kind of make it really simple for burnout, because there's so many symptoms to burnout, but people might be asking, how do I compartmentalize burnout symptoms? So the 3 main burnout symptoms are exhaustion, depersonalization, as in you start feeling numb, disconnected, irritable, emotional kind of behaviors
mm,
towards yourself and others, and then the kind of losing your life purpose, really horrible symptom of burnout. It's probably the one that really devastates many. Is that particular symptom? That's when your spiritual energy account is not being topped up. But I
mhm,
just want to explain, because you asked about self-compassion. That's when your emotional energy account is not being topped up. So your emotional needs are not being met. So that's where you feel
mm,
numb, disconnected, irritable. And self-compassion is the antidote to that particular emotional energy account. And the thing is, you have to have a good relationship with yourself. I think putting your needs first is the first step. But so many women, including myself, found it so hard and still find it hard to do
mm,
that. Um, and I think to see it in a different light, if you do like really love yourself and value yourself a lot, you will definitely want to put yourself first. And there's this saying that you need to put on your own oxygen mask first before others. That's actually that.
yeah.
And self-compassion, once you show yourself compassion and kindness, that's when you have the energy, your emotional energy accounts being topped up, and then you can be emotionally available in a way, and you can be compassionate towards others. But it has to start from within. Self-compassion starts from within. Not
Mm.
easy thing to do, but it needs to start within. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the next thing that you talk about is self-empowerment.
Mhm.
Can you tell us more about self-empowerment?
Self-empowerment is basically self-trust, I feel, because I think if you don't trust yourself, chances are you might not feel confident in yourself. You might not even want to feel empowered to do anything. And yeah,
Mm,
so I think it starts with just believing that you can do it. Easier said than done, but it involves I will say, a lot of inner work, because I had to do that myself. It wasn't easy.
mm,
And yeah, it involves, and I found quite recently that when you regulate your nervous system and trusting your body, because we all have a nervous system, and we all have the vagus nerve. And once we trust that vagus nerve and our nervous system, that's actually where the self-trust process comes in. So I think self-empowerment actually comes from the wisdom from the body or from the nervous system.
mm,
It starts from there. And then people always think it's brain, like the brain controlling the body. I think
mm.
sometimes it's probably the body controlling the brain sometimes. So I think
Yeah.
it's just a different way of looking at how does self-empowerment come in. It's through trusting your intuition, which is actually coming from the wisdom of the body, learning to lean into your nervous system and knowing that it's got your back, basically.
Mm. Yeah, amazing, amazing. And then you talk about self-appreciation.
Yeah,
And as part of that, in your chapter, you talked about the self-love toolbox that you've
yeah,
developed. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
yeah. So self-appreciation is probably the hardest stage for a lot of people, because we're all wired to always focus on the negative feedback and not the positive feedback, including myself. I found that as well. But self-appreciation is when it's a kind of a next level up from self-compassion, is when you celebrate, the little wins, the big wins, and you actually say to yourself, or talk to yourself, saying, "You've got this, awesome!" Like you really start praising and appreciating yourself internally or audibly. I tend to do it audibly, so that's fine. Yeah, so I think that's self-appreciation. The journey must start with self-compassion and then self-empowerment, followed by self-appreciation. It's that stage-wise approach to it. And with the self-love toolbox is something that I've kind of been talking to my clients about. Everyone has a very different toolbox for self-love. Like for me, I can't like do bubble baths. Maybe for some they are. Maybe that's for somebody. So everyone's got a different toolbox for self-love. So for me, it's walking in nature. For me, it's like having massages. I know, but I need to see my osteo once a month to kind of fix up my body in a way, because it's obviously there's a lot of pain issues from doing work at the laptop, which we all probably face that issue as well. So for other people, it might be meditation. I'm not a huge meditator, but for some people, maybe that's their self-love toolbox. They must meditate every morning. They must journal after that, and a morning routine. So I talk about that just to help people kind of create a specialized or personalized toolbox for them to love themselves. So it's more of a concept rather than the actual kind of a toolbox. It's more of a concept rather for my clients to understand, even for my patients as well.
Yeah, I love the idea of every single person has a different toolbox as well, depending on the self-love tools that they find work for them, for their self-care.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So amazing. And burnout, it's quite a problem at the moment. I heard statistics recently that since the pandemic, burnout rates amongst women have more than doubled. Is this what you're finding in the people you're talking to?
Yeah, absolutely. I just participated as a speaker in a panelist last week in Women's Agenda, and we talked about burnout as well. And there's so many reasons why women are so much more prone to burnout, and I talked about it in the Purpose and Passion book chapter as well. So women are moms. That's already a huge mental load, right? With looking after kids, then looking after our career, like our business or having a career. That's another thing. Then you got to sustain a relationship with your partner or husband, or a marriage. That's another thing. That all adds up, and women just, no matter what people say, we have such a huge load on ourselves. We have so many balls to juggle, and I think people can say there's equality and all that, but ultimately it comes back to the mom. Like always, anything with the kids, it always comes back to the mom. Dad, yeah, sometimes, but always comes back to the mom. So yeah, that's probably why women have such a high rate of burnout, because of all that, and the inequality they face at work. So that's work-related demands and discrimination and things. And I was in a panel with the two other panelists, and we spoke about closing the gender pain gap, where women's health and pain issues are often dismissed because we are we appear more emotional, more hysterical, or whatever. So we talked about that, how we need to treat women the same way as we treat men for healthcare, and that is possibly a cause of the burnout, the huge mental load, exhaustion, and all that, because women, they don't just juggle with the day-to-day things. They have health issues as well, and that's an additional load to their bodies and nervous system, and hence the burnout happens. So yeah,
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Dr. Olivia, and thank you so much for your chapter in Purpose and Passion as well. I really enjoyed reading it and learning more about how to forget toxic productivity and how to bring in some more self-love and self-compassion into my life.
Yeah, thank you, Peace. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed the book chapter. I certainly enjoyed writing that chapter because it's very close to my heart. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who has tuned in today. Make sure you grab your copy of Purpose and Passion. You can find it at wcwpress.com. Well, thanks everyone, and we will see you again soon. Bye.
Okay, bye everyone.